Okay, so we're back with another episode of TV shows you have to see in your lifetime. And when I pick a TV show, I am specific. Trust me. If I pick it, it means it has a deep significance. It has a special thing about it, a special warmth, a special connection. It leaves you feeling very good when you walk away. It's very therapeutic. I don't just pick anything. Like, I am, anybody that knows me will tell you I'm extremely picky on what I like. Like, if I like something and I go on and feel the need to share it with somebody or get excited, it's because it was really touching and very special. And if the cast had a great chemistry that probably came off real, or it was relatable to what we all deal with in our problems in life with therapy and trauma, and so it was like it really touches me. So if I pick something, trust me, even if it doesn't end up becoming your best favorite show or you don't like it that much, but give it a chance because it's got something special about it, or I wouldn't even be going on about it. And I love to pick hidden gems that are, because in today's society I notice that people are very as decades go by, people only know like the top four of everything. Like I was talking about with music, where people only, when they think of the 60s, they only think of like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, when it's like there's 10 billion people in between that were number one hits, number one fame, just as famous at that time. But there's that old saying, which I hated about a friend I was with years ago. He said to me, I made this joke. I said it before 1,000 times. I'm sorry if I repeat, but it's on purpose. Is that he said to me, I remember I brought up I forget what singer it was, but he never heard of him. So his whole mindset all the time was like, if he never heard of somebody, he couldn't have been famous. It's like, don't you realize that things are just as famous as that today? Just because things aren't shoved down your throat today doesn't mean that they weren't just as famous in their time. Okay? So, shows, I like to find hidden gems in shows that are extremely special, and obviously they were big at the time or they wouldn't have been on TV with millions of ratings. It's just that they're forgotten now because when you go to a mall, when you look at our today's culture and society, and you say you go into I don't know, like a mall store where they have T-shirts, and you see it's just like the same three shirts, like, oh, Led Zeppelin, The Doors. It's like, so you're thinking those are the only bands I need to know from a certain time period. It's like, no, there's billions that are just as famous to them. It's just that they're not marketing them, so they're getting forgotten, lost in the dust. It's the same thing with TV shows today. That's why growing up in the 90s was so great, because the cartoons brought up all references from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and all that, which today's cartoons and shows don't do. They just pretend those things don't happen, didn't happen, and that's why people my age and younger don't really kind of know as much culturally. They only know, like, oh, the Beatles. And it's a shame, and that's why I was inspired to do this in the first place, because I had friends telling me that, like, wow, you know all this stuff, like, all jokingly, like, useless information, so why not? But it's not useless, because it's like all this stuff is like great, because if you love this band or this show, then you're gonna love this one. So I know I'm going on and on, but I get excited. I get excited to share all this great stuff that's just as great, maybe better than. But the problem is, how would you know if you only know? Like, I could share you a band that you probably end up liking more than the Beatles, just that you didn't know about them because the radio won't play them anymore or something. So the same thing with TV shows. So, and I know I promised my friend Sarah, who may just be my number one fan, and the reason, and a big reason of why I want to thank her for keeping me going to do this through my tough times in my personal life and everything. Sarah, she told me I got my first recommendation. She said my first fan request, which was so great to me that, hey, someone's actually watching and I got a request. She wants me to do the show Elf. And I'm going to get that. Trust me, I'll never forget a fan. But I wanted to just do this show because going through a breakup over the past year, where I'm okay now and everything for the most, but it's still like it hits you. And I was recently what I do is I try to find shows at the time of what I'm going through, so they could be therapy for me. So I could watch a show going through where the characters are going through a similar issue I am, so I could be like, oh wow, I don't feel like I'm the only one. I notice in today's time period, people like media and movies and TV that get them to escape from their problems. But I think that that's good too. But I think our culture is too much on that now with everything like Marvel and everything going on. I think that we're getting detached from empathy and feelings and stuff. And I think that we've become, I think, my theory is that we would be better people if we watch stuff that has pain and trauma and sad in it, so that way we could relate and become better people and remind us. I don't think we should shy away from these things just because it's like, oh, that'll make me sad. It's like, we need to feel to develop empathy, and that's how we'll become better people. And I know that that's why there's so much hate in this world right now, especially on trans people, because we're not relating, and shows aren't doing anything to do these deep topics or anything. They're just shying away out of fear. Like, that was my analogy of why I always loved Star Trek more than Star Wars, even though I love them both. But Star Trek will tackle the real deep issues, like on trans or gay or politics, that people don't, because they're afraid, oh, we're going to lose TV ratings or upset people if we talk about, where Star Wars will be more just on the, safe, not going into anything that's going to upset anybody or get the wrong idea or make anyone have to think about something or hold anybody accountable to where maybe they hurt somebody or they're a racist or they're a transphobe or a homophobe. Star Wars won't go into any of those deep things because it's safe. And that's the thing, everything with Marvel. Today, everything is safe where they're afraid to hurt it. They're afraid to get anyone mad. But we need that right now because we need it to get people to think and become better people. So, So I recently have been watching this show. Now, it's another one just like what I did. Now, I did Three's Company last, and I did Man About the House, and I did those as two separate videos. But they are essentially the exact same show. Three's Company is an exact identical remake of Man About the House, and it's just the Americanized made version, but they're essentially identical. Now, to give credit though, to an extent, but when Don Knotts, who plays the new landlord over the Ropers, takes over, the show does have to create its own new characters and ideas, but it's, like 80%, it's identical line for line. It is the exact same show. It's the same thing with this example today. Dear John. Dear John is a sitcom originally made in the UK first. I believe it went from 86 to 87. Or maybe it might have been 86 to 88. But anyway, I can't remember. But then NBC, I believe it was, NBC made the American version, which we tend to do, as I showed you with Three's Company and Man About the House. They make an identical clone for the American audience. And so I'm going to do this one as the same. Now, I did Three's Company and Man About the House differently because they essentially they are a clone of the identical same show, but then Three's Company goes longer, and it kind of becomes its own thing, where they're slightly different, and John Ritter brings a different style, as the other actors do, to it, making it a little bit different, even though they're the identical same exact characters. So, I wanted to do them justice as two different shows, but they're the same show, to be fair, to Man About the House. So with this one, I'm doing it as one because they're literally identical. They don't branch out. They don't branch out to be different in any way. It doesn't branch out to be different in any way. Dear John is exactly the same. They're both even called Dear John. The intros are identical. The intro is, now I know from just how I think people think today. And that is not me trying to take a shot on people or hurt anyone's feelings. I just think that we're very I think we're very desensitized to having to feel things, and that's why shows aren't like as deeply written into issues and feelings, and like Shakespeare. Like, people always say Shakespeare's boring and da 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 da, because it goes into all these tragic things that we don't want to deal with, like death, and politics. Like, and I Dear John is very endearing because it's very different. It's bold. I think the show is very bold. I think it has a lot of guts, and I think that's why the original version didn't last that long. It only went a season, and I guess it got lost in the shuffle and didn't do that well. Obviously you do well enough in general to get on TV, and millions of people do see you, but I guess it didn't do that well. It only lasted a year and such, which is a shame, but I think it's very bold. And then so America tried its take on, so tried to see their luck with it, and it lasted 4 seasons, a lot better and more successful. And it's harder to watch both versions. I have to admit I did not watch the original version, which is the British one, because it's I'd have to get it on DVD, because now with streaming and everything's getting taken off YouTube because of rights issues. But ironically, you can watch the American version of Dear John. Every episode, everything, all of it is on YouTube right now, so I recommend for you to watch it. They're all on YouTube right now. They're owned by NBC and Paramount and all that, to where they could be taken down to be put on Paramount Plus soon, but they haven't been yet, which is interesting. It seems that way with lesser known shows that don't get the appreciation. I noticed that. Like, I'll give an example, like Golden Girls, right? That now you'd have to watch through streaming, I believe, because it's a very, very popular show, even today, not even in its time. But it has a spin-off called Empty Nest, which is a show I want to do in the next coming weeks, where it's a spin-off in the sense that it's its own show with its own characters, and the girls from Golden Girls only appear very periodically because they're just in the same universe. It's like Mork and Mindy, how Mork started on Happy Days, but the shows don't really link at all. They're just in the same world. It's like that, but it's a very beautiful show. But anyway, the point is that show you can watch all on YouTube as well, so I recommend that as well, even before I get to it. But I think it's interesting because it's sad, because I guess that's almost like it's saying, like, we don't care about you enough to even block you from YouTube, to make people have to buy to see you because no one cares enough. And it's like, damn. You know what I mean? Because these shows are incredibly endearingly heartwarming. I believe that Empty Nest is better than Golden Girls, and it's like, I'm about to get killed for saying that. It's like, no, I love Golden Girls. Hear me out. I'm not. When people think just because you say the words overrated, people get triggered by key words. I noticed that. They think if you say the word overrated, it means you're saying it's junk. It's like, no. Overrated does not mean something's not great. It just means it's overrated to what it is. I think Golden Girls is brilliant. I mean, come on. It tackles ageism. It's brilliant. Brilliant. I'm just saying that I think Empty Nest is so underrated by the same makers, it's even more enduring. Endearing. Enduring. That's all I'm saying. But I love them both. But anyway, Dear John. So, Dear John, the American version, it's all through the main character. Well, they're both Dear John. What am I talking about? I mean the actor, Judd Hirsch. If you're not familiar with Judd Hirsch, he is an incredible actor. He has a way of being that. He always plays the same kind of character, where he's so unthreatening and likable that he becomes a pushover, and all his friends kind of use him for all their problems, or they use him as a therapist. He's very unthreatening and cuddly. You know what I mean? The type of guy where he becomes a pushover because he's too nice, and people walk all over him, and he gets friend-zoned a lot. And people, because that's what happens to you. When people feel so comfortable with you, they will take advantage of that. Again, we're always talking about the subconscious, not like people are literally trying to do it on purpose. We all do it to people that we really feel comfortable with. We take it, we. So if you're familiar with the brilliant, groundbreaking show Taxi, which is from the '70s, which is all about all these misfitted friends that work for a taxi company at night, and they all bond between jobs, and they get to know each other, and they know each other outside of work, and they're like a little therapy group, even though they're all taxi drivers at a taxi company. And Judd Hirsch is most famous for that. This was the sitcom he did from his fame on Taxi, where he plays, even though he's a different guy, it's essentially the same character, which is just him. He's this very comfortable, likable guy that everybody could feel comfortable with because he's so likable and innocent and endearing. And that's what he has, this like I was talking about in Three's Company, where John Ritter and he has this like on-air ability to just make you feel so comfortable, like you really know them, or they're this real gentle person. Judd Hirsch has that amazing quality too, and that's exactly why I'm covering this show today. And so Judd Hirsch is John, and then you have so the show essentially is about John mainly, but it's really actually more beautiful than that, because it's actually about all the characters on the show. So the whole point of the show is that John gets a Dear John letter. Ironically, he comes home one day and his wife left him a letter on the fireplace, and it's a Dear John letter saying Dear John, about how she's leaving him for his best friend. And it's, that's really sad. And the show's important because in therapeutic, because what about all of us that have been broken up with and cheated on and left, which makes us feel, it leaves you scarred, not because you hate the person or whatever, or you don't forgive them, or vice versa, because you realize no one's perfect. Like, I'll give you an example in my life, like my ex that I was with for 8 years, she cheated on me twice, but I don't blame her for that at all, because I was very distracted. With everything I was going through and everything, being trans, and very hurt, and I was very distant, and I got so caught up and wound up in trying to help with trans rights and complaining and all that, and all that I wasn't very romantic. I forgot about our relationship, and that hurts me forever. That will hurt me till I go to the grave, to where never once did I blame her for that, to need somebody where you're not getting it. So, and the character John is this just the most gentle, loving guy, and that's what makes the character special, where it's not about hating, or So anyway, that's what happens, and he's kind of a pushover and so nice, and she knows how to kind of manipulate to get what she wants out of him, that kind of thing, when kind of knows the right buttons to push, the saying is. And so in the divorce, she got the house, she got custody of their son. So so I think the show is very endearing for anyone who, if anyone who has faced this. It's very beautiful, because now remember, this is a sitcom, so it is a comedy. So I'm not saying this, and I don't want to put you down here, or put you in a sad mood where you're thinking oh, I don't want to watch this show, it sounds sad. It's no, it's very beautiful. You come out laughing and feeling so much better if you're going through the same situation, or you have. And that's why I like the show, because I have recently had that happen to me again, and it was very comforting in knowing okay, I'm not the only one, and it happens. So that's what. So John essentially he goes to a community center that has different groups, how there's AA meetings for people that are alcoholics or stuff like that. So it's recently divorced people struggling with recently divorced group. It's group therapy. And that's what's beautiful about the show, is that it's like Cheers, where and Cheers, they're all kind of have all their big issues and they're all misfits, but they all bond together and become such friends and are all close at the bar in the show Cheers, and it's deep on how they all get to know each other and are there for each other. Same thing with this show, is that they don't essentially help each other through therapy as much as they help each other by becoming genuine friends, and they hang out outside of the therapy sessions and they are really all there for each other. So it's actually really beautiful. And it's very the cast is brilliant. You get Judd Hirsch, who is just brilliant in Taxi. You get his name's Jerry Burns. I think he's one of the most underrated actors ever. I only knew him from this, but apparently he was on Burn Notice. He had this other sitcom that didn't do well because at the time it was going up against Frasier and other top shows at the time. That was right after this show, Dear John. So it pulled in 8 million people in ratings. That's humongous, but it still got canceled after just 1 year. Because of, well, it stinks getting caught between all these top shows at the time. That's just, I think if it came out a little bit later, it would have been, that's the tough reality and where shows get underrated. We have so many, and that's why I'm here, and I want to talk about these ones that maybe people don't know about because of that fact, or the shows get lost in the shuffle, and or they could be humongous at the time and just forgotten right now. Because Dear John actually was a very successful show. It's just not being talked about today. So successful that there's 2 versions. This would essentially be a remake, just by default, even though it's just an American version. It's an exact remake. The lines, the episodes, everything is identical. So there's John, and there's the actor Jerry Burns. He plays the character Kirk. Now, Kirk is this guy who thinks he's a ladies' man, but he's actually extremely insecure. He puts on this giant facade where he's completely sleazy and only talks about, like, getting chicks and all that, and then you're thinking, like, well, this guy's a bad person, but he's not. As you watch the show, you see that it's a facade, it's a front, because he's very insecure and very scared of women, and he is very insecure with his identity, himself, and is unconfident, and he puts on this facade, and he gets attached to John, because John's the one guy who doesn't push him away and say, like, get away from me. Because John's such a nice guy, he puts up with people when other people would be like, get away from me, you asshole. So it's actually really touching. So Kirk is obnoxious, he's sleazy, but what's brilliant about the character, where there's depth. We're not talking about black and white characters here, like, oh, good guy, bad guy. We're talking about real human beings. And what's brilliant about the Kirk character is that for how sleazy and insensitive he is, where you want to strangle him, he somehow could be completely insensitive, but then extremely caring, all at the exact same time. Like, do you ever hear that way that somebody could elevate and then insult somebody in the same way? Like, they usually say that about example with men insulting women, like being sexist, like saying, like, what would be an example? Like, oh, she's very beautiful. So it's like you're elevating her, and then it's like saying, like, oh, but then she has the best knockers. Like, meaning, so then it's like, oh, okay, so you elevated just to put down, type of thing. So it's like, so Kirk's an interesting character because he actually does care. He's just completely obnoxious and has no people skills. But in his weird way, he does care. There's a character, and Kirk is so memorable. Now, obviously, it's the exact same thing on the British version. Same name, everything's exactly the same. But I actually enjoy the Kirk on the American version the remake, because I don't know what it is, but this guy is an iconic. I don't know how this show is not more famous. You have to watch the show even just for him. The guy, Jerry Burns, who plays him, does this. He does a one-of-a-kind performance where, okay, like on paper, it sounds like he's just your typical sitcom goofy character for comedy, for comedy relief. But he does a one-of-a-kind performance. I've never seen anybody do that distinct voice, that distinct style. He puts on this front like he's this mob-type Italian guy, but he does it in this way that it's his own. And so you have to see it. Now, in the British version, it's the exact same character, except he doesn't do the Italian guy thing. He's just a British guy. It's not as over-the-top. He's a little bit more cartoon character and a little bit way more memorable in the American one. Not that I'm saying that show's better. I'm just saying I would say in the American one, Kirk is, oh my God, he's something. So anyway, another third main character of the group would be Ralph. And Ralph is this very nerdy, sheltered man who, lives alone. He has glasses. He's your stereotypical antisocial nerd who's afraid of women, afraid of everything. He's kind of afraid of everything, so he, and you feel for him. He's like one of those guys, like the most beautiful, sensitive guy, but, can't get, he's a virgin, and even though he's in his late 20s or whatever, because he has no,